Is to not take a deep dive on why there's no water in the fire hydrants in Los Angeles as it burns right now. That's right, they've run out of water. So there you go. Your DEI numbers are going through the roof. Good for you. And the firemen, firewomen, they, zed, all of the pronoun people are standing there with nothing to do because there's no more water. Congratulations. That's what happens when you prioritize DEI, diversity, equity, inclusion, over pragmatism, over good government, over just simple competence. And, of course, if it's happening in California, if Gavin Newsom is doing it, then Ned Lamont is doing it in Connecticut. Because why not? Why not adopt every failing initiative that Gavin Newsom has done? On with us to talk about this is State Senator Rob Sampson, who intends or is trying to do something about this DEI madness. Senator, how's it going?
It's doing very, very well, Tom. Happy opening day of the Connecticut legislature, and thank you for tackling this topic.
Thank you. My pleasure. Hey, by the way, I'll just get your reaction to the State of the State address, if you don't mind.
Yeah, to be honest with you, I didn't hear it. I was outside the chamber, in several meetings, and I have a difficult time sitting through the governor speaking for any length of time anyway, so I prefer to read it after the fact. Yeah,
that's both of us, actually. Yeah, I paid a speeding ticket during the speech. Yeah, he had a lot of fun, gave a lot of shout-outs. He said a couple of... He's doing his Shecky Lamont thing now where he tries to be funny. Okay, so we'll move off of that. Neither of us saw the thing. So we're seeing in California, we've certainly seen in the streets of Connecticut what this DEI stuff does, what wokeism does. We know that Ken Barone has essentially made a dictate that the police can't do proper policing of people, motor vehicles, because of equity reasons. And we've got a spate of wrong way drivers now and all these horrific crashes, etc. People need to learn, and I guess I'll ask you this. Like, what are the real life consequences of this DEI madness?
Yeah, Tom, we're seeing it all over government across the country. I mean, as the last 5 or 6 years where this stuff has picked up steam. And thankfully, people across the country are rejecting it. I think it's a large key ingredient to the success of Republicans nationally and Trump being elected. Mm-hmm. I've been talking to people all day about, what to expect in Connecticut because clearly we're lagging behind the rest of the country in, having any sort of resurgence for Republicans. But I think we're poised to have that happen. Anytime the pendulum swings, it stops for a moment, before it swings back. And I think that's where Connecticut is. And I think there are a lot of people that reject this stuff outright. I have a tough time finding people, even in inner city communities. I'm one of the few Republican senators that represents an inner city. I represent Waterbury, for example. And even there, people reject this nonsense of advancement based on, race and gender. And people believe in merit. I think, people understand that, when we're children. And I don't think we grow out of that. It's just a matter of an irrational political movement that has taken hold, and political correctness has made people sit down and shut up for too long. And thankfully, I think that, the Trump campaign and, other brave, courageous conservatives and people on the radio like you doing God's work, are getting people to have the courage to stand up and say this is nonsense.
Well, and thank you. I think that really, we saw this has been creeping really for a couple of decades, but certainly in the last 10 years, and certainly since the summer of 2020, which was the dumbest year in the history of American civilization, there has been this push, and people are not looking back. And now you have, in your press release, you mentioned that McDonald's said, see you later, we're not doing this anymore. Companies know that these DEI departments are simply useless. All they do is cannibalize the institution that they're in. They waste time and money. I belong to a corporation, I won't say which one, where we do hours of DEI work, and I can imagine it costs millions of dollars. Just the curriculum itself, it's totally counterproductive, and it certainly will be with the state. You don't need more bureaucrats sniffing around making things difficult.
Right. It's amazing to see large corporations that, have been, kowtowed into following the politically correct line for fear of being, canceled or what have you, to see them actually coming out and making affirmative statements saying that we're not going to do this garbage anymore because, not only is it morally wrong, it affects the bottom line. And we see it in government as the last bastion of this nonsense because there's not consequences. McDonald's has a bottom line. They have shareholders. They have people that have to make money. In government, they just go and collect more taxes when they screw up. So that's the hardest thing to change. But as people become more and more aware and people in the private sector begin to stand up and reject this stuff, I think we're poised to see big changes. The governor, put a bill in last year to actually do far more than what I'm talking about in that release. He wanted to create a situation where every state agency, and I don't know how many there are, like 45 agencies, DOT, agriculture, you name it, DMV. He wanted to effectively create a basically second commissioner for every agency, and that would be a DEI person. Imagine the cost of that. You're talking, somebody that makes a couple $100,000 a year, plus benefits in each one of those things. And every decision made by those agencies, not just for hiring, but like internal policy, would have to go through that commissioner. I mean, that's madness.
Can you imagine?
But thankfully, I was able to block that, in the committee. And this thing is just the governor's last grasp at, I'm going to show those Republicans I'm going to do something. And of course, it's bad. But thankfully, it's not what he originally planned for.
We were talking to State Senator Rob Sampson. Well, he had to desperately do the EO, the executive order. How does he get the money for that? Don't you guys?
Well, right. Well, I mean, the Office of Policy and Management, the governor's, budget, he has some discretionary funding within there, and that's effectively what he's doing. So, we can have solace in knowing it wasn't an additional expense, although it's certainly something that, is clearly taking the place of something else. Although I don't know that there'd be a guarantee that it would have been used any more wisely. But the fact of the matter is we have to shut this stuff down by making sure the public is outspoken enough to put the brakes on it. And I really think that's going to happen in Connecticut. Maybe not right away, but it is happening little by little.
But it seems to me that, and I tend to agree with you. I live in Massachusetts and work in Connecticut, so I'm seeing these twin progressive nightmares unfold every day. But what is the breaking point? When will voters look over onto Trinity Street and say, it's really dumb for us to have this post-Marxist mural there that represents a corrupt organization, that was a violent movement that was based on a lie. Something like that, symbolically, when will people snap out of it?
Well, I think that the breaking point really relies on whether or not the elected Democrats in our state begin to fear the voters. I think that is when things will change. The problem we have more than anything else is that I think most voters are disconnected. If you poll voters on the issues, Republicans are right on everything. I was just telling this to another person that the Democrats may have numerical advantages as far as the number of representatives they have, but they are in the major minority when it comes to issues, whether it's crime, whether it's affordability, whether it's illegal immigration, whether it's men and women's sports, whether it's anything, that is top of mind in policy across this country. The Democrats are on the wrong side of it. And I just think that in Connecticut, most people are disconnected or divorced from what's happening in their state government. The Trump election has its own set of, sentiment, anti-Trump sentiment that doesn't really have anything to do with policy. So it's hard to break through all that. But I think it's beginning. 167 out of 169 towns had higher pluralities for Republicans than they did in the last presidential election. That tells you that things are trending the right way, even if it didn't work out to us winning more races. But I think it will.
Well, do things trending the right way? Does that mean the Democrats are going to get more desperate in the next coming years? Or does that mean they're going to temper themselves? Because Nethermont wants that EV mandate. Democrats still want, in their heart of hearts, they still want that. In the same way, in New York, they kept pushing congestion pricing for 20 years, and they finally got it. They want those EV mandates. So do we, are they going to lurch further left in one last desperate attempt, or do you think they'll be reeled in?
Yeah, isn't that the question, though, Tom? I mean, it really is the question. I mean, what we're noticing is, people that are really out there on the far left, the true believers, like our Attorney General, William Tong, who I served with in the House of Representatives. I have so many funny stories about our interactions when we both served on the Judiciary Committee, like when he attempted to ban bump stocks. And, when on the floor of the House, and I tried to get him to describe what a bump stock is, and he couldn't do it. I mean, that is how entrenched they are in their madness. Is they don't even care what the facts and the reality are. They're just a walking set of talking points. So I don't know. I think there are some leaders in the Democrat Party in Connecticut that are going to go full boat radical, thinking that they have some sort of a mandate because of the election results in Connecticut. But I think if they're smart, they know that it's really going the other way. I'm going to walk into every committee meeting, every Senate vote this year like I'm in the majority, Tom, because I feel like I am. Maybe not here in Connecticut, but nationally, I'm gonna be carrying the the majority of Americans on my back when I go in.
Hear, hear. I hope. I'm glad you are, and I hope that the tide is. I feel like the tide is changing too. I think that what's national is local in a way. There's some kvetching and some thrashing about by some of these people, but I mean, how many more? The California LA fires is just the latest one. This rash of wrong way, and it's funny because in Massachusetts we don't have the wrong way driver thing, but we also didn't reimagine policing and how to stop people, how the rules of the police to stop cars. I mean, the cause and effect is right there. It's right there for everybody to see, and I think that that's the way that most people are going to say, hey, this world is upside down, and I can point to these insane measures. As the evidence that progressivism just doesn't work, Rob.
Right. Yeah, the more it hits home, obviously, the more people are going to be personally invested and take an interest and find out what's going wrong in their world and make electoral change. The thing I would leave you with, Tom, is, have confidence. I mean, one of the problems we have in Connecticut is that our Republican Party is kind of dysfunctional, whether that's the House or Senate Republicans or the state party, and everybody knows it. But I will tell you there are big changes happening in the Senate Republican caucus, at least. We've got new leadership. We have conservative leadership. I'm in a role right now where, things that, my old leadership would try and marginalize me over trying to push issues like, preventing men and women's sports or taking on the illegal immigration topic. We're going to be coming out with these things. I think we need bold, bright lines to say what Connecticut Republicans actually stand for, and hopefully, with your help and with others, we can make the Connecticut Republican Party stand for actually conservative Republican values and give voters a real choice. Because I think that's the other thing missing from the equation.
Yes,
is that in a lot of places, I think voters are just, they don't know what to expect from their Connecticut Republican alternative to the Democrats, and we need to show them.
Here we go. State Senator Rob Sampson, thank you.
Always my pleasure, Tom. Thanks so much.
Talk to you later. 860